Indira Gandhi National University. I am Edwin Moses, academic counselor at the IGNOU Study Center, 2504, Shakira College, Gujarat. In the previous session, we discussed about novel, the structure of a novel, the origin of the form from early prose pieces from the 16th, 17th century onwards. And we discussed about how novel is unique in comparison with other genres of literature, how it has developed as a unique, popular form of writing, like genre of writing. Am I not audible?
Right. Am I clear now? Yeah. Welcome to the counseling session of Indira Gandhi National Open University. I'm Edwin Moses, academic counselor affiliated to IGNOU Study Center 2504, Bishop Eber College, Tiruchirappalli, Tamil Nadu. So we were discussing about the origin of novel, the uniqueness of novel, the uniqueness of the genre, and the popularity of novel and the reasons for it, and what makes a good plot, and what are the features or the characteristics of a novel that makes it unique in comparison with other genres of literature, right? So the various types of novels, like panoramic novel, picaresque novel, psychological novel, historical novel, fantasy novel, gothic novel. Okay, we have the science fiction, climate fiction, and so many types that are coming up, right? And especially in the postmodern world, in this century, 21st century, we are experimenting new ways of writing, right? Writers are experimenting with new techniques. Maybe they have done away with all those traditional techniques, and there is also a mix of techniques, right? So let us see novels in context. So while you read your course material, you will have various sections like reading Tom Jones or reading in context or some critical perspectives. I'll be talking about critical perspectives in the end. So, reading in context. While you read a novel of the 18th century or the 19th century or the 20th century, try to read the novel in context, right? If you read an Indian writer, right, say Chetan Bhagat or Salman Rushdie or Kamala Das or whoever, an Indian writer is easily relatable to you. You are able to relate with the characters, with the setting, but it is not so with the British writer, right? You should know something about the history, the background of that society, the background of the English society, right? The attitudes, the mannerisms of that particular period, right? Society changes, like that is why we have divided from the medieval ages, right? From the medieval ages, we talk about Elizabethan age and their mannerisms, their culture, the way of life. The Elizabethan stage is different, and what are the needs of the audience, what they loved, right? And there was a particular language that was familiar during that time, and the mannerisms, the societal norms, everything changed over a period of time. And religion also had a great influence in all the periods of history, right? the clash between Catholics and Protestants, the socio political and economic condition that is reflected in a particular society. Okay, the customs, the mannerisms of the middle class, the upper class, right? All these things will reflect in a novel. So you have to keep in mind while reading a novel, read in context. Get to know something about the history of that particular period. Okay, the way of life of the people. Okay, of course, novel mirrors the way of life, the mannerisms of the people. That is why you are studying history of literature, social history of England, right? When you do your undergraduation, you would have studied all these things. So that will give a better understanding of the novels you are reading, right? If you have not done so, do a thorough reading of the social history of England, right? The history of English literature with a chronological sense, and that will give you a good understanding of the novels you're reading. Apart from that, and the forms which we dealt with, okay, the various types of novel and the various types of characters. There are round characters, flat characters, and the terms associated with the characters, right? We have buildings roman and Kinsel roman, right? What is a buildings roman? Can you give some examples? What is a Bildungs buildings roman? You would have heard of this, right? So, M.H. Abrams' literary terms will give you a good understanding of these critical terms, right? And the forms and types of novels and the forms associated with that and the critical terms, everything you should know, right? Can you say what is a Bildungsroman and some examples? What is a Bildungsroman? Right? The growth of a character from the childhood till the adulthood stage, their maturation stage, right? You have characters like that, right? Harry Potter can be seen as a Bildungsroman, right? To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, it's a Bildungsroman. You can say The Catcher in the Rye, The Kite Runner, the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. All these things you can say as Bildungsromans, right? These are some of the uh, definitions, or they can say coming of age novels, right? You should know about these concepts, okay, while studying literature, especially novels. Kunsel roman is actually the maturation of a writer, right? The process of maturation of a writer. That's Kunsel roman. So, reading in context. I was talking about reading in context. So every society will influence the writers of a particular age, and the writers, maybe the writers of the next age, are influenced by the other writers, right? You There is overlapping of the nature of that age. All these things you have to keep in mind, okay, while reading a novel. So read about the author, get to know about the author, understand the social background of that age, right? And the social, economic, cultural, and the all these factors together will help the understanding of the novels, right? That is very important. So coming to the 18th century, and that is the period exactly from where you can trace the birth of novel exactly, novel as in the modern form, right? And previously it was all uh, lengthy prose pieces, right? As we saw about John Lilly's, the Philip Sidney's Arcadia, and such prose pieces. And in the 18th century, exactly, Samuel Richardson, you can ascribe to him. Samuel Richardson's work, Pamela, have you heard of Pamela? Pamela Uh, the other name is Virtue Rewarded, right, in 1740, and that is considered to be one of considered to be the first novel, okay, in English history as the novel in the modern form. And this Pamela or the Virtue Rewarded is in the form of letters, right? And you have Tristram Shandy, right? Tristram Shandy. It's about ship's a ship singer's experiences. Okay, Tristram Tristram Shandy, and then coming to the 19th century. The 19th century is the period in which novelists flourished. Right, during this period, novelists flourished, and novel writing, especially, you have great writers like Jane Austen. Right? Can you say anything about Jane Austen and her works?
Jane Austen, Pride and Prejudice, sir,
Yes, very good. Pride and Prejudice,
and the Little Women, and sorry,
Sense and
not yes,
Sensibility,
Sense and Sensibility. Sorry, sorry.
Mansfield Park,
Yes.
right?
So
So
there is also
that's good.
Charles
That's good.
Dickens and
Emma,
Jonathan Swift.
Jonathan Swift. Can you say something about the society of Jane Austen, the society, what she reflected and wrote about? What
In
kind of
those days,
society she lived
in
in?
those days in society, women did not have a shared equality with men in
Yes,
society.
yes, yes. That's good. That's good. And she was touching upon all those matters, and maybe you can see how there was no equality between genders, and maybe the identity of a woman is based on the man's identity, right? In Mansfield Park, uh, she is referred to as the baronet's lady, right? Because the man is a baronet, and the lady is referred to as the baronet's lady. Okay, right. So you can see how Jane Austen reflects the upper class mannerisms of English society during the 19th century.
Rights to vote also was not given to all.
Yes, yes, very good, ma'am. And you can see a lot of um, revolutionary, okay, or maybe um, women writer, as and being a woman and writing itself is a great thing. During that time, there are not many women writers, right? During that time, and Jane Austen um, mostly wrote about the domestic space and also about the mannerisms during that time, and that itself is a great task. And being a woman writer at that time is very difficult because nobody there was not many women writers, just one or two, a few, right? So uh, what is considered to be the status quo during that society?
Even Louisa May Alcott was that time, sir.
Louisa May Alcott,
She also
yeah,
19th century.
19th century, yeah, yeah.
She also wrote the same thing, same things like.
Okay, okay, right, right, right. I'm not much aware of her works. Maybe, yeah, about her. So,
So Louisa May Alcott, Little Women, that came as a movie also recently. That's why I
okay, 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 okay. You're quite curious about it. Right,
yes.
right, right. That's documentation of an, yeah. Here was an important documentation as an insider. Okay, what you're talking about, Shruti? Madam, your name? Right. Here was an important documentation as an insider. You're talking about the social documentation, right? So, of course, and these novels are a great social documents, I would say. And you can also unearth a lot of history by reading these novels. And what is considered to be the status quo during Jane Austen's time? And maybe these ladies, so you remember Elizabeth Darcy and all these ladies, okay, were maybe eligible for marriage, and they're looking for a wealthy man. Okay, what is considered to be wealthy, and uh, what is that status quo of a man? okay, it's considered to be appealing for women in that society, especially. And a man who has large amounts of land, okay, wealth, is considered to be, okay, an eligible bachelor. What's the first line of Pride and Prejudice? I'm not able to remember suddenly. It's a very famous line. Can anybody say? A man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife, right? I think I'm not exact, but a man in possession of a good fortune, right, must be in need of a wife, right? It, that's how Pride and Prejudice starts, right? And see how the society revolves around the male, okay, man, and women's identity is based on the man's status quo and the role of man in society, and what is his profession or what is his identity is what's the woman's identity. And women did not have an separate identity at all. Maybe slowly, and there are many women readers who developed during this time and Jane Austen's time, and women started reading, right? And women were not allowed to read, right, till then. And if you talk about Victorian society, maybe just a century before, if women enter the coffee houses, you would have heard of coffee houses, right? If a woman enters a coffee house, she is considered to be a prostitute. Maybe women are not allowed in literary circles, right? They are not fit for intellectual discussion. So that's the kind of opinion, especially in Victorian society. And the coffee houses are spaces for men to discuss intellectual matters, and women are not capable of these matters. And that's the opinion of the Victorian society, right? And see how backward they were, right? And the attitude of the male towards the female and the attitude of men towards women, and it was so regressive during that time. And you can see that shift and in various aspects, okay, not just about gender but in religion, right, in economic status, and in the culture of that particular place. Everything changes. There is always a flux. So that is why every century, in the turn of every century, great literatures are produced, right? And you can see a lot of changes in society, and all these changes are reflected. And that is why you should have a chronological sense, okay, while reading these novels. And you should read in context, very importantly, right? So keep that in mind. And coming to Charles Dickens, we all we discussed, right, when we were discussing about the form, social writer. So he reflected the life of London in the early 19th century. And I told you about David Copperfield and how he suffered as a young boy, right? Working in factories, working in industries, industrial establishment, and how the problem of child labor was rampant during that period. And he was working even at the tender age of 10. And children were exploited for many hours. And so you can see Charles Dickens as a social reformer, right? And what about William Makepeace Thackeray, right? He reflected the Victorian society and the fashionable mannerisms of Victorian society, and especially the upper class society and their mannerisms. And you can also see the subconscious recesses of the human mind, a kind of psychological exploration uh, based on the theories of Freud is attempted, right? All these things are part of these writers. And you can come to D.H. Lawrence, right? D.H. Lawrence and James Joyce, right? Especially, and you can see the psychological exploration based on Freud's theories. That's very important. The ego and superego, and especially with regard to D.H. Lawrence and James Joyce, you can see um, they focused on the full expression, full freedom of expression with regard to human experiences, relationships, and particularly in sexual matters. And coming to that 20th century and followed by the present time, right? In this 20th century, right? Almost you can see the last 50 years before the 21st century, the scope of the novel has become maybe it has widened a lot, right? It is not just about societies, the external factor, the external descriptions of that place or that society, or describing the mannerisms, the customs of that particular age. So it was that, especially when you talk about Jane Austen's novels or Victorian novels, there is more of description of the society, right? And but when you come to the 20th century, and even you can extend it to the present time, the focus is the individual, right? Do you agree or not? The focus is the individual. Most of the stories that are written, even today, you can take many examples, focus on a particular character, right? The individual's psychology is revealed. The complexities of human nature is analyzed, right? Is probed deeper. And the individual becomes a subject. And if you talk of Freud, exploration of Freud's theories, in D.H. Lawrence, Sons and Lovers. Have you heard of Sons and Lovers? And it is a work of Oedipus complex. What do you understand by Oedipus complex? And Oedipus complex and Electra complex. The son's affection towards a mother, and Electra complex is the um, daughter's affection towards her father. And you can see in D.H. Lawrence characters, in Sons and Lovers, it's a work of Electra complex. How the mother influences, okay, the son, and how much she had influenced him. And an example I would say for Electra complex is Sylvia Plath's Daddy. If you have heard, if you have read the poem Daddy, okay, she has a kind of love-hate relationship towards with her daddy. Um, she hates her daddy, and as much as she hates, she also loves as much as she hates a daddy. A kind of love-hate relationship is there, and that is Electra complex. Okay, Electra complex of a girl, Sylvia Plath towards a daddy, right? So individual becomes the subject matter, right? What else you can talk about? Okay, novel as a response to the pressures of the times, right? Pressures of the times and ways of living, and the ways of the modern times and the postmodern times, right? Especially you have to talk about that. And maybe more broadly we can say, from the philosophical, moral, the Freudian, and intellectual, everything is analyzed, and there is more focus on the consciousness of the individual, right? The consciousness of the individual. So that is why I said that there is a shift from the location of reality, from the external social circumstances to the individual consciousness. And the predicament, the human predicament, the loneliness as a necessary condition of man. All these things you can uh, talk about with regard to the 20th century novels and the novels of the present time. And another important thing you have to keep in mind while studying these novels from various periods, see the narrative structure, the narrative techniques used in the novel, right? You have separate. Sometimes you are even dedicated separate. They have dedicated separate chapters for uh, narrative techniques. What are the narrative techniques used by writers? Right. Each writer has its own narrative technique, like Virginia Woolf and James Joyce, the stream of consciousness technique, right? New techniques are adapted, and the narrator, there is an omniscient narrator, first person narrative or second person narrative or third person narrative, right? While you read these novels, I want you to read the novels. All of you, please don't just go away with the summary, right? You are free and maybe you have much time to read, okay, at home, and you can read a lot. Okay, try to read, enjoy each of these novels, and try to uh, get to know more about the forms, the themes, the narratives used in the novel, right? The narrative techniques, the stylistic devices, what kind of narrator it is, omniscient or first person or second person or third person, and who is the narrator, and whether is there any autobiographical elements in the novel, right? And more importantly, as I said, reading in context. That's very important, right? Talking about James Joyce, a portrait of the artist as a young man, and that is what I told you is a consul roman, right? Kunstleroman. Consul roman is a novel which traces the development of an artist or the artistic process, the artistic sensibility, I would say. The consul roman is that novel which traces the development of artistic sensibility. And a good example is James Joyce, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. And the important character, and you have this novel in discussion in the course material, Stephen Dedalus, right, is an important, is the major character, the protagonist of the story. And also know about the different types of characters. Refer Image Abrams' literary terms, flat characters, round characters, the various types of characters, and you have examples across periods and from different novels. And who are the flat characters? Who are the round characters? What? No, okay. Can you say what is a flat character, round character? I think most of you would be aware of flat character and round character.
Can flat characters won't change much during the story?
Yes, the course of the story, they
Round.
remain constant. They don't change much, right?
That's all I know.
Okay, and round characters are they are quite they are complex and they undergo development, right? Sometimes to the surprise of the readers, okay, the development is drastic, right? So the flat character has little emotions and motivations, or the personality is not so charming. They also don't undergo much of a change, okay, as you said. And but with regard to round character, and was great development in the story, right? It changes throughout the story, right? The round character. So get to know about that, and you have examples across periods and from various novels,
So
right?
Charles Dickens' characters were mainly flat characters, we can say, sir.
Okay, yeah. Flat
Not
characters.
much change. Just
Yes, yes. And coming to Stephen Dedalus, and right, and maybe he has a, is kind of an identity crisis and maybe the social anxiety. Uh, of course, he experimented maybe with religion, and there was a sense of religious doubt, maybe everybody will have a sense of religious doubts. We have developed religious doubts at one point maybe in our life, right? And he also had a kind of sexual awakening in his life, and there is a kind of a cycle of sin and repentance in Stephen Dedalus, the artist, the portrait of the artist as a young man, right? And he experiences a kind of a private apocalypse, maybe I would say, right? So just a short overview of the short uh, the portrait of the artist as a young man. And Virginia Woolf, right? Coming to Virginia Woolf, I told you about the stream of consciousness technique. And can you name some of her works? One or two? Mm, Virginia Woolf, the famous feminist writer. Mrs. Dalloway, right? A Room of Once One, and Mrs. Dalloway is an important novel which talks about Dalloway's day, okay, the one day in her life, right? And the mind of the character, mind of Dalloway is revealed with the stream of consciousness technique, how she goes forward and backward in her life, and everything in one day is revealed to you. Well, such experimentation with the forms of writing was very much evident in this time, right? And more importantly, uh, D.H. Lawrence as an important writer of this time, and the reflection of how he rejected the cerebral experimentation, right? The associating more with the intellectual side, right? But he focused on the uh, okay, the Lady Chatterley's novel, which became a controversy, on the instinctual approach to the business of novel writing, right? And that is something unique about D.H. Lawrence and his works, right? And as I was talking to you about the Freudian uh, theories and the psychological impact of it, right? Okay, with this, I'll stop with regard to this reading in context, and I just want you to focus on theories also, right? Literary theories. How many of you have heard of literary theories? Have you read any book? Maybe I think you will be studying in the next semester. Uh, Literary theories. A good book to introduce you to literary theories is Beginning Theory by Peter Barry. Beginning Theory by Peter Barry, and that is a basic book for literary theories. So, another important thing you have to keep in mind while discussing these novels and any contemporary novel for that matter, right? All these novels have been interpreted, they have been analyzed from various perspectives, and to analyze these novels, literary theories they come in handy, and many have done it, right? There was too much of analysis that done. Maybe I'm talking about research, and there are new works that are taken up for research, but you should know about literary theories and how you can see, using literary theories, how you can see these works, novels from various perspectives, right? Can you name some of the literary theories if you are aware of that? And I would recommend you to read Beginning Theory by Peter Barry, right? It's a small, it's a good book. It's available online, right? Um, that will introduce you to the various literary theories. Can you name some of the theories if you are aware of? And see, there are various theories, and you'll be studying literary criticism and literary theory separately. And literary theories, psychoanalytic theory, right? Have you heard of this psychoanalytic theory based on Freud and Lacan's theories, the id, ego, and the superego, right? You try to analyze and probe into the mind of the characters and what they are experiencing, right? Whether they are experiencing id, ego, or the superego in various situations, okay, in the novel. You try to find out how these characters are revealing themselves, what are the motives of these characters, right? To analyze these psychological theories, psychoanalytic criticism, that is, psychoanalytic theory will help you, right, to probe into the psychology of the characters and understand the. So for that, Freud theories will help you, right? That is one important critical theory. And you have many theories. Feminist theory, right? Feminist theory. There are Elaine Showalter, right? Many famous Mary from Mary Wollstonecraft too. Okay, Helen Sissos, Elaine Showalter, the gyno critics, right? They talk about the language of men and the language of women, how it is different. Feminist perspective, how you see feminist theories, right? When you read these novels, you see how women characters are treated, right? Whether they are treated equally or whether they are subjugated, the role of patriarchy, male domination, right? And how society treats women, how the male treats women, right? All those things you will discuss as part of the feminist theory, the feminist approach to a particular novel, right? Or you can attempt a psychoanalytic perspective of a novel, right? All these things are theories. And you have many theories. New historicism, have you heard of? I'm just giving you an overview of this, and you should be using these while you read and try to analyze these novels from various perspectives, right? Theories will come in handy for you, right? As a literature students, as MA in literature students, you should know theories. I think you will be studying in the next semester. New historicism, right? uh, as I told you about Falstaff, right? Shakespeare's Falstaff as an alternative history, right? If you want to know about the real history of Shakespeare's period, you have to read the Shakespeare play and the historical records of the particular time, right? And also some other fictional works, and especially the minor characters in the play will reveal a lot about the mannerisms of the time, the true history of the time, right? Sometimes the ways of life of the upper class is hidden, right? It is not revealed to the outside world. But when you see these minor characters and their way of life, and how Falstaff gets along with Prince Hal, and okay, and these minor characters reveal a lot about the upper class society, right? So new historicism, that's also a new perspective to see, read literature. And today you have lot of new theories coming up, that's in trend. Cultural studies today, a novel or a poem or a short story is not just literature, right? Everything, a film is a literary. You can analyze a film or a uh, advertisement or anything has become a text, okay, to analyze, right? Cultural studies, studying the popular culture, mass media, right? Television series, advertisements. So cultural studies is an important upcoming branch in literary studies, right? So English studies has widened because of the introduction of literary theories and modern literary theories. And eco criticism is my area, eco literature, right? How you study uh, the representation of nature in a text, the representation of nature in a novel, how nature is represented, whether it is in the sideline or whether it is the focus of a particular work. Maybe, for example, if there is a dog and a human being, how the dog is treated. Is the man dominating the dog? Is he torturing it? Or is there a bond between the dog and the human being? Right? Likewise, there are maybe various theories, sub concepts in eco criticism, right? And gender studies, especially, is also another important area, right? That's coming up. And you can talk a lot about, yes, maybe I think I have touched upon some of the major theories and the recent trends, okay, in literary theories, and there are many more like trauma studies. You would have heard of trauma, right? What is trauma? The trauma experienced, the pain experienced by a particular character, right? How much they affected, and trauma narratives are quite popular in West, and not many works have been written or uh, have been analyzed from maybe the from trauma theory, from the trauma perspective, the trauma experience. Okay, maybe we associate with Holocaust and the trauma experienced by those people, and trauma with regard to the Indian narratives, right? The trauma faced by an Indian mother or Indian character is not much reveal the trauma faced by Indian women, right? Or trauma faced by old people, geriatric trauma, we call it, and that's a new area, geriatric, old people's trauma, right? There are many new areas, uh, and all these will help you to see literature from a critical lens.
So Indian settled abroad, there are such kind of literature also.
Diaspora.
Something.
Yeah,
Yes.
diaspora.
Many books are coming
Many
like that.
many writers are, yeah, diasporic writers, right? Jhumpa Lahiri, right? It's a famous diaspora writer. You have many diaspora writers, right? You have so many concepts associated, rootlessness, right? Uh, Identity crisis, rootlessness, all those things are part of diaspora, right? Indian writers who are settled in abroad and writing about their experiences and their longing for the native culture, right? They are in a dilemma. They don't belong. Maybe they feel that they are nowhere, right? And finally, they kind of assimilate, right? We think assimilation is getting along with all the cultures, right? Coming to a maybe in a state of assimilation, right? Diaspora, right? An important group of writers, especially you will study with regard to the Indian writing, Indian writers in English, and there are many other writers also, Canadian writers, Australian writers, Canadian diaspora, Indian diaspora, maybe in Canada, Australia as well, right? So if I am teaching you next semester, I will be dealing with Australian literature, Canadian literature. That's my favorite areas, and hopefully we will meet in the next semester. And if you have any questions, you can comment in the chat box. If you have any other questions, comments, you can chat in the chat box. I think most of you are working professionals and students, maybe students who have taken a break or work. I think most of you are working professionals, right? So you may not get much time to read, but still try to read at least a novel, maybe in a week, or at least one novel in a month, and you will get a taste of all these writers and uh, the context of these writers and characters.
So right now you suggest that we focus on British writers, sir, because it is British
Yeah,
literature.
yeah. For your exam point of view, you can
Hmm.
focus on British writers, right?
Okay.
You can read these novels. If you read Victorian novels and Jane Austen's novels, uh, see that will give you a command of English language, and you will get to know a lot of new words. Okay, the Victorian language is unique, and you get to know a lot of vocabulary, right? And that gives you Uh, it's interesting, and mm, it expands your vocabulary, right? It's good to read. Focus for maybe the British writers for now, maybe for the exam point of view, right? And you will be exploring a lot of new writers, Indian writers, as well as writers from Australia, Canada, Africa. Maybe in the next semester, you'll be dealing all these papers. Okay,
So for this
new
semester, there
literatures.
is time, no, sir, for this
Yeah,
semester.
yeah, you
Because
can. Yeah, you have time till April, right? You will be writing your term and exam by June or July, right? June or
mm,
July 2021. So you are all part of July 2020 session, right? So you'll be writing a term and around June or July 2021, right? So you will have assignment time for assignments also by April. Maybe it will be extended till April 31st. It's likely to be. So the December exam was a bit delayed, and there was another exam in maybe it just got over by March, the December session. So um, anyhow, it will be around June or July for your next semester.
we will get all the intimation, no, sir, no problem.
Yes, yes, you can check in IGNOU website. Everything will be updated. I
Okay,
don't think
sir.
so. You will not get much information from the study centers. You
No,
can check your website, right?
okay.
Everything you can, maybe you can download everything online, right? Your hall ticket, and submit your exam forms on time, right? After, right, soon after you submit your assignments by March or April, they will post the exam forms. By end of March or April, your exam form will be posted in the website. So you have to register for all the four papers. You have to take separately. You have to register, and you have to pay 150 or 200 per paper. I don't know exactly. And then you will get your all ticket, and your study center, your examination center will be allotted.
Okay, sir.
So
Even study center, we are not able to go now, sir, because of this pandemic.
yes, 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 right. So you can. That's why we are having an online class, right?
Mhm.
What's
Assignments, if you are not able to submit in person, send it through post, right? You can send it through post. Send it through registered post or speed post.
So the assignments are also uploaded in the website. What to
Yes,
will
it's
ask?
uploaded. It's uploaded, right?
Yes. I'll check, sir.
It's there. It's there. You can check. So focus on the four papers. Okay, the four papers, and I'm quite sure about only those four papers you'll have for this semester, and the rest the next semester. Read your program guide and get clarified. And if there is any change, I'll let you know in the WhatsApp group.
Sir, we don't know what WhatsApp group, sir. I'm not aware of it.
Okay, okay. I've just started a WhatsApp group. I'll give you my number. You can WhatsApp me, and I'll add you in the group. Okay, I'll post my number, the chat box. Right, I have posted my number. You can WhatsApp me. I'll add you in the group.
sir
Okay.
Okay,
once again 900
303797 2. You send
37
me a message. I'll add you in the group.
Okay, sir. Okay. Sir, study materials. How can I get, sir?
You have not received any material so far.
No, sir. No, sir.
You are from which center, which regional center, and which study center?
DJ Vaishnava, sir.
DG Vaishnava, RC Chennai. So,
Yes, sir.
what you do is write to RC Chennai at igno.ac.in. Okay,
Okay.
that's the email ID. You can
Okay.
check in the RC Chennai website.
Okay,
Phone
sir.
numbers are there, and RC Chennai at igno.ac.in. Just email them, quoting your enrollment number and the session, your name, and the other details.
Yes, sir.
Say that you are not received your
Material.
course materials. They will follow up. Okay, they
Oh,
follow the.
okay,
For
sir.
now, you make use of the material from e-guide course. Okay,
Okay.
online materials. For
Yes.
now, you can make use of it. Okay,
Yes, sir.
everything is available free online, so you need not
Okay.
worry about it. So
Okay.
let the hard copy. I think they have to follow up. RC Chennai, they have to dispatch you. Okay,
Okay,
materials.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you for listening.
Thank you,
Sir,
sir.
you are
Good
from
to
which
meet you
place,
all.
sir?
I am from Madurai basically. I am teaching in Bishop Weber College, Tiruchirappalli. Right now, I am currently teaching in Bishop Weber College, Trichy.
Okay,
I am
sir.
associated with Trichy Study Center.
Okay, sir.
I am working part time in the Trichy Study Center. Okay,
Okay, sir.
right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, just a minute, sir.
Yes.
Yes, put off my- Yes, sir, I sent you the message. So should I
Okay.
put my name also?
Right. I'll add you in the group. I'll just share a few maybe videos and books and like that. Maybe I thought in between I can share you some. Okay. If you have anything, you can contact me. If you have any doubts, you can contact me. I'll try to when I am free, I'll try to answer your questions. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Thank you. Good to meet you all through IGNOU online class. Right. Thank you for listening. Hopefully, we'll meet in the next semester. Maybe if I'm teaching you. Right. Bye. Bye. Take rest.